So, Barbara, I'm going to say good afternoon. Do I have the time zones correct? At least you're still an East Coast person?
Yes, I am. We have the time zones correct. It's a pleasure to meet
Whew.
you.
Hey, the pleasure is all mine. And you've got this new series on oxygen. Not the first time you've been on camera, to say the least. The Netflix stuff, you've been an expert, etc. But how long was this oxygen series in the works for?
Well over a year, we discussed it endlessly. And then when we finally came up with what we wanted to show, what we wanted to say that was different than other true crime shows, then it was a matter of picking the cases. I've got 5,500 cases, 680 homicides. What cases were we going to do that hadn't been already done to death? Excuse the pun.
Oh, I see what you did there. And,
Yeah.
not to give away any details, but this season takes us to Vegas and the UK. It takes us all over the world. And based on what you just said, it sounds like if you wanted to do 15 seasons, you could.
Actually, I could. There are so many stories to tell. And the more I tell them, the more I understand how they worked.
Sure. So, what was your gateway into investigations? And pardon the stock question, but I'm a licensed private investigator myself. So,
Ah.
I'm curious, like, who or what told you, you know what, you have an eye for this?
When I was about 10 years old, I had a chemistry set, a dissection kit, and a microscope. And the kids in the neighborhood used to bring me roadkill, and I'd open up the raccoon and say, "Oh, look, the rib cage is crushed and the lung is hemorrhaging. And on the exterior, we see squiggly black lines. This raccoon was killed by being run over by a car," and the kids would go, "Whoa." So it was in the blood early on. As an adult, I was working in surgery. I became a hospital director. I was bored, bored, bored. I went to a career counseling service. They said poultry veterinarian or coroner. I said, wow, why poultry? They said, well, you don't want to get attached to your subject. So chickens, they're beady little eyes, no one cares. I said, I'll take the dead people. I'll be a death investigator, completely forgetting that those people you do get attached to, and they have families who you get more attached to. So, yeah, the profession, I think it chose me, actually. I think it was just a lucky stroke here and there, and it's the most fascinating job in the world to me.
Sure. A transition question from that one is a lot of people in your field are competent, but not necessarily interesting. And therefore, it doesn't translate to on camera. You translate very well to on camera if you can take the compliment. But
Yeah.
who was it that originally in the first place went, you can also do this on camera and not just be on the scenes or behind the desk?
I think that was Dick Wolf. I wrote a book, What the Dead Know, about my cases and adventures. And then I got on the Netflix show, Homicide New York. And then, Dick Wolf saw it and said, I like her on camera. Let's develop a show. And so we started that work and we did. And I'm so pleased that it actually happened because it's a good show.
Hmm.
It's different than the usual true crime shows. Yeah, we solve it. Yes, you're going to learn a lot about forensics, but you're going to be there with me. You're going to be there and see what I saw, hear it, smell it, taste it. You're going to know what it felt like to be a woman in that situation. Whew, it was quite an adventure.
So is New York your home for life?
Yes, it is. I can't leave. I'm one of those people that likes to be alone, but surrounded by others.
Hmm.
So I'm alone in my apartment. I'm very happy. I go out in the street. I'm surrounded by a million people. When I've had enough, whoosh, right back in.
A lot of people, when they have a career that other people find fascinating, I find that they're like a kid in a candy store where they spend their off time doing that. Then eventually they get burnt out and they have to relearn to love it again. But what's your main hobby when you're not occupied with investigations and, well, death?
When I was in training, I was watching the autopsy of an 8-year-old girl who'd been raped and smothered. And the pathologist, Dr. Lee, I said, how do you do this every single day? It's mind, it's hurtful, it's mind altering. She said, Barbara, when you leave here every day, I want you to surround yourself with things of beauty, create something, look at art, and listen to music, hug a tree. And I said, well, that's some hippie trippy nonsense there. But after a while, I realized she was right. I got myself a little fixer-upper house in the mountains with a dog and 2 cats, and I hugged trees, and it helped. Ever since when I retired from the ME's office, I went into private work,
Hmm.
consulting work for families, and that was painful too, because you get to be with those families all the time and feel their sorrow. So now it's all about creativity, writing, doing television, podcasts, telling the stories that I want people to understand about the victims. It's not a statistic. We can't say, oh, 6,000 people were murdered in such and such a place. No, each of them was a life, a universe,
Hmm.
people around them that form that universe. And I want the viewers to know these lives and to know what it was like to be us in there working.
So going back to the original thing I was asking about, how long was this Oxygen series in the works? Or you said about a year. When did you actually wrap the season, or is the season actually not wrapped and just the first few episodes are?
No, it was about 2 years of talking, then development, and now, yes, we're wrapped. So yeah, we started production early this year, and the finishing touches are all on. We've got 10 episodes in the can and ready to show.
Do you have another book in the works? Sorry to rudely interrupt you right there.
Not at all. I do have another book I want to write, and I've been working on it, but I keep being drawn back to television because, as you
Mhm.
might notice, I love talking. You know?
Well, not in an insufferable way, might I add.
Thank you, thank you. Uh,
And when did you also realize that the name Barbara Butcher was perfect for the industry that you were in? That there's almost no better name that you could have.
Yeah, I mean, it's so perfect. When I used to do lectures at NYPD, I'd say, "Hi, I'm a death investigator. My name is Barbara Butcher." And yes, Butcher is my real name because they would always laugh when I said the name. I
Sure.
remember going to a case, I had a student with me, on observation, and his name was Slaughter. So I come up there to the scene, pull out my badge and go, "Butcher and Slaughter, what do you got for us?" It was such a good name. I think it's a great name for a series. I'd like to have a series called Butcher.
Trademark it, buy the domain today. Well, the
I-
last two questions before I let you go. You mentioned music being one of the things that you use to decompress and enjoy. What's the last concert that you went to for fun?
Oh, actually, yeah, a soul singer. What the hell was her name? Regina Bell down in Washington, an amazing singer. The blues, soul, all that stuff. That's the last one I went to. And, even just putting on, I was going to say putting on a record because I'm from that era, but
Well,
just,
records are cool again, let's
yeah,
face it.
but just listening to songs from back in my club days in the 80s, it takes me to a different place. It transports me and I love it.
Okay, then I'm asking you a different closing question. Club days. If you're saying nostalgic New York, are you talking about the Limelight or which clubs would you be talking about?
In fact, I actually worked at the Limelight. I was I was doing party promotion when I was young, and I managed the clubs. And I did Limelight, Private Eyes, 2020, even Studio, we did parties there. So yeah, I had a nice little run of nightlife.
Were you working at the Limelight as the same at the same time as the members of the band, the Fun Loving Criminals?
No, no, I wasn't. No, I was in the early days when it was just raucous, big, huge parties. I don't even know if we heard the music, frankly.
Barbara, you're endlessly fascinating. Thank you for your time. Hope we get a season 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. But in the meantime, congrats on season 1 and hope another books in the pipeline.
Thank you so much, Darren, and please stay safe.
Paltrocast.